Madam President, good afternoon. Let me say good afternoon to everyone who is here in this honorable house, to my colleagues on this side, to the member opposite, to all of us who are here and those in the gallery as well, and of course those who are joining us via the media. Madam President, I rise this afternoon to support the bill before this honorable house. And Madam President, I would also like to commend very highly the mover of the bill, who I think, in my estimation, did an extraordinary job in bringing the budget address on Tuesday. Madam President, I believe that this bill before this honorable house, it provides some degree of hope. It's very comprehensive. And I believe it provides some degree of hope and comfort to not only all of us on the island of Nevis, but to an economy that is bouncing back well from the COVID-19 pandemic. And in that regard, I rise in full support. I rise to wholeheartedly support the bill and, of course, the budget presentation. Madam President, I'm also here to give an account of my stewardship as a member of the Nevis Island Administration. And of course, persons would know that I'm responsible for a number of portfolios. They include agriculture, lands, housing, cooperatives, marine resources, natural resources, and culture. And of course, Madam President, we know that when the address was presented on Tuesday, the budget address is presented under the theme, Investing for Growth, Building the Framework to Support a Resilient and Sustainable Economy. And I believe, Madam President, based on what I will present this afternoon, in terms of my stewardship, in terms of what we are doing in my ministry, and what we intend to do, they totally embody the theme for this presentation. And because we are doing so much in this ministry, I have decided to caption my little presentation this afternoon under the theme, Moving in the Right Direction. And Madam President, it's because we are moving in the right direction why my ministry, Madam President, will definitely embody the theme of this budget address. And just to put things into perspective, Madam President, this afternoon, as I make my presentation and as I assert that my ministry, and by extension the government, and by extension the island of Nevis, is moving in the right direction, just to put things into perspective, I just want to say from the onset that you'll be hearing much about achieving food security, food sovereignty, food sustainability. We will be hearing about our increased production on the island of Nevis. We'll be hearing about the improvement in our extension and outreach services. We'll be hearing about the increase and improvement in technology, very important. We'll be hearing about several initiatives in the departments that I represent. We'll be hearing about the improvement in the standard and the quality of the activities that we host. And of course, we'll be hearing about the strengthening of our relationship with our allied agencies. We will also be hearing about the increased collaboration, because my ministry is a ministry that thrives on partnerships and collaboration. And we'll be hearing about the increased collaboration that we've developed and continue to develop and continue to forge with other government departments as well as other agencies. We'll be hearing about improvement in greenhouse technology, Madam President. We'll be hearing about the increased availability of agricultural products and inputs at the Lawrence and Parry Depot. And of course, very importantly as well, something I'm very, very proud of, we'll be hearing about the recognition that we have received from some of our neighboring islands. And of course, Madam President, I'm very proud to say as well that we'll be hearing much about the revolutionizing of agriculture and housing on the island of Nevis. Madam President, let me start with the area of extension and crop production. And of course, Madam President, I am very happy that I am back in agriculture, because I spent practically all of my work life in that ministry and that department. And I was trained in agriculture as well, so that is my background. And so I am happy that I am back. And extension is dear to me. Crop production is dear to me, because there is where I started my career in agriculture. I started in the field. I started to work with farmers. And so I am very, very happy that I'm given this opportunity once again to be within and amongst farmers and amongst technicians in agriculture. Now, Madam President, we have come a very long way in agriculture. We've come a very long way in production, food production. And as I said, once I develop this afternoon, you will hear a lot more about what we are doing. But I just want to say that over the years, every year we have seen increases in many of our crops on the island of Nevis. And that is evident on what we are seeing in the supermarkets. It is evident what we are seeing at the hotels, what the hotels are using. It is evident what we're seeing at the public market. And Madam President, I have to say that I'm proud of the work that is being done in the Department of Agriculture. Madam President, we have seen significant increases, and I want to highlight banana and plantain, because when I worked in the Department of Agriculture, we waited with bated breath every month, every week, I think, for the boats to come from Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No more, Madam President, do we have to wait on the producers or the farmers in Dominica or St. Vincent and the Grenadines for us to consume bananas and plantains. And that is a major, major accomplishment. And so we've had a significant increase in banana and plantain production. I think over the past year we've seen an increase of at least 2 acres of green bananas. And generally, we are practically self-sufficient in green bananas, Madam President. Almost every week you hear the Lawrence and Parry have green bananas for sale. And we are getting there where planting is concerned as well. Madam President, very proud of what is being accomplished in the area of lettuce production. Because I did a tour recently, Madam President, of some of the shade houses, and I was blown away. I was amazed at the level of production and the level of the quality that we are getting from our lettuce producers. And Madam President, the lettuce production has skyrocketed over the past couple of years. And it would be interesting to note that I think there's only one variety of lettuce that is being imported into Nevis right now. So when we go to the supermarkets, most of the lettuce that we see on the supermarket shelves are produced right here on the island of Nevis. And when I say lettuce, I mean good quality lettuce as well. Gone are the days when we thought that we couldn't even produce romaine lettuce, but it's being produced here. And it is just as good as any romaine lettuce that's coming from overseas. And so we should be proud, not only us who are in agriculture, in the business of agriculture, but as Nevisians and residents, and all of us should be proud of that accomplishment. From the figures, it is estimated that over 47,630 pounds of lettuce has been produced already for the year. Madam President, we've had excellent production of things like watermelon, honeydew, cucumber, tomatoes, and of course we would have seen that at the open day as well. I also have to say, Madam President, that the work that we would have done at Indian Castle to establish that fruit orchard, Madam President, speaks volumes to what we are doing here on the island of Nevis. And very soon, as a matter of fact, not very soon, But we have already been harvesting products from our fruit orchard. We have bananas, we have plantain, we have all the fruits you can think about down there, Madam President. And of course, our signature crop is coconuts. Over 5,000 coconut plants planted there. And we have been harvesting the other crops, and very soon we will be harvesting coconuts as well. And so, Madam President, we are moving in the right direction where production of products, agricultural products are concerned, and the consumption of those products, which are much healthier than what we get from overseas. Madam President, I was just speaking about the lettuce, and I have here now to just segue into shade house production, because this is something that we have accomplished much with regards to. I am proud to say that Nevis is the leader in shade house technology and shade house production in the Windward and the Leeward Islands. Let me say that again. We are the leaders in shade house production and shade house technology in the Windward, I didn't say the Leewards, I said the Windward and the Leeward Islands. And when I listen to persons like the gentleman, the regional officer in charge of AICA, Mr. Greg Rollins, and when he comes to Nevis, he marvels. He marvels at what we are able to do. The last time he was here, he said, when I go to places like St. Lucia and St. Vincent, they're trying, they can't get it right. We have gotten it right, Madam President, because we have stuck to the task and we are committed to doing it. Madam President, we on the island of Nevis, we have 24 shade houses in production. And you know, when the mover of the bill presented the address on Tuesday, and he said that we had 24 shade houses, I had to back check with the department, you know, because I said, I don't want to give any wrong information, and I ain't sure if we have 24. But I was told, yes, we have 24 shade houses in production, Madam President. That is why we can produce so much lettuce. That is why we can produce so much cucumber. That is why we can produce so many sweet pepper varieties. That is why we can produce thyme and herbs and even cabbage. We are getting into that as well. Madam President, the shade house technology has taken off so well. We are doing so extraordinarily well that the shade houses are contributing at least about 50% of the short-term crops here on the island of Nevis. I think right about now, we are practically experts in the production of things like tomato and lettuce and sweet pepper and cucumber. And, you know, when we started, because we have come such a long way, when we started this shade house thing, because it started when I was in agriculture, we were just experimenting with things like sweet pepper and tomato. Little did we know that we'll get to the point where we'll be growing so many crops in the shade houses and become so proficient, not only growing, but become so proficient, Madam President. And I'm very proud. We are also going to get into cabbage. Madam President, in shade house technology, we are certainly moving in the right direction. That is why we are investing for growth, building the framework to support a resilient and a sustainable economy. Madam President, we just don't grow, but at the Ministry and the Department of Agriculture, we also do our best to assist our farmers in marketing what they grow. Because over the years, farmers have always complained, we grow a lot and we can't get our things sold. Gone are those days, Madam President. In this era of agriculture, we are now providing the avenue through which our farmers, once they've done the hard work, once the crops have been produced, we now facilitate the marketing of those products. And so, up to November 2023, a total of 95,485 pounds of food crop were processed at the Lawrence and Parry Agricultural Depot. Madam President, it is important to note that this is only what was processed there. We have not taken into account all of the products that the farmers have marketed on their own to hotels, to supermarkets, to market vendors, to persons who just want a few pounds to buy. And so this is just a fraction of what is being produced here on the island of Nevis. Madam President, because of the excellent work we are doing in assisting our farmers, I can tell you, and I can tell this Honorable House, that the farmers' payout has increased by 31.8% in 2023. So the value moved from $178,090.32 to $235,895.26, Madam President. If that doesn't say we are moving in the right direction, something wrong. Madam President, of course, because of the fact that we are marketing the products for the farmers, we have tried to tell our farmers, listen, we want good quality products. And the farmers have risen to the challenge. And so the products that we are marketing and they are marketing, the quality is exceptional. And of course, because of the fact that we as a department, as a ministry, and as the marketing unit, because we want to reach more people with more healthy food, apart from the fact that they are available there at the marketing unit, at the Lawrence and Parry Depot in Prospect, we have also organized a number of sales throughout the year to reach persons. So if persons can't come there, sometimes we come into Charlestown, and so many more persons are being reached, so at least persons can take advantage of our fresh, healthy products that are available here on the island of Nevis. Madam President, I have a lot to say, so I'll be skipping over some of this stuff, but I want people to get the gist of what we are doing. Let's go quickly to livestock production, Madam President. Madam President, livestock production is also very important to us. And we as a department, we want to lead and we want to try as much as possible to encourage our farmers to step up. We have encouraged them to step up. They have stepped up big time in terms of shade house technology. And of course, we know that almost all of the farmers now have drip irrigation. People have stepped up over the years. And we now want our livestock farmers to step up as well. We want to bring everyone along. We want to ensure that agriculture moves to another level. Madam President, because we want to lead from the front, we have decided, well, listen, we want to do a small ruminant breeding unit over in the Maddens area. And so we would have invested some money there. And what we are trying to do there is to try to have a demonstration unit for persons who are doing small ruminants. And when I say small ruminants, I mean sheep and goats. Because of course we know that they are always in high demand. Mutton is always in high demand. And over the years we have realized that a lot of our farmers, they may not be as scientific or business-minded as they should be. And so we are trying to lead them in that direction, Madam President. And also the fact that land is getting very scarce on the island of Nevis. We know that, especially where the department is concerned. The department don't have a lot of land now. And because land is scarce, that is why we're encouraging livestock farmers to get into intensive production. And so we want to do we're doing a demonstration unit there at Maddens, teaching farmers what to do so that they can take the lead and also come on board. We are also at 90% completion of a pig breeding unit, because pork is something that is normally in high demand as well. When you have people like the member for Nevis too, pork has to be in high demand, right? And so, because we realize pork is normally in high demand, we have also decided to do a pig breeding unit at Madden's. Once again, we want to lead the pork producers to stepping up, Madam President. Gone are the days when I was growing up, everybody used to have a pig under a tree. We ain't seen that now. People have stepped up. And so we are asking them to step up, and we are leading. Madam President, we would have also done over the past year the fencing of at least 50 acres for pasture development over in the Madden's area and other areas. I want to say here though, Madam President, our livestock farmers, they work hard. And it is very disheartening when, especially the small ruminant producers, when persons allow their dogs to devastate persons' flocks. I mean, my heart broke, I think it was only last week, when a young lady told me that one of her friends who is a farmer lost over 40 animals due to dog attack. And what we have been realizing, and I know that is happening down in the Hanley's Road area, it seems as though that persons sometimes take their dogs to fight, and then they just let the dogs loose. We saw what happened with the donkey. Why we have such a donkey problem, people just let them loose. We find now a lot of dog owners just let their dogs loose. And for whatever reason, I don't know why many of them have brought them down to Dirty Hanley's Road Indian Castle area. And so the dogs are loose, and because the dogs are loose, they're attacking the livestock. And so I want to make a special appeal to those of you who have dogs and you cannot feed them. Please ask the police officer or the vet to put them down. Please, I am begging you. Please, we don't want them for adoption either, because maybe some people who adopt them can't feed them either. So please, if you have dogs, because you know nowadays dog food is expensive, eh? Dog food is expensive. And I was shocked and amazed when we were campaigning last year. I didn't know Nevis had so many dogs. I am serious. Almost every household have 4 and 5 dogs. And as I said, people seem not to be able to feed them now. And so they decided they're going to let them loose, and then let them loose on people's livestock. Please, dog owners, we're asking you, please work with the farmers and stop allowing your dogs to devour the hard work of the folks who are doing livestock farming. Madam President, let's shift gears to go to what has been happening at the abattoir. Madam President, our meat processing capability continues to be lauded. Continues to be lauded by hotels, by supermarkets, by everyone who have access to the services of that institution, and especially with regards to the value-added products. Now, I can boldly state, and I'm sure persons who would have tasted and consumed the value-added products at the abattoir would agree with me that the products there are tastier, they are more appetizing, they are healthier than what you get from overseas, and that is why the flood goes there sometimes for persons wanting products from there. Madam President, up to November 2023, a total of 55,177 pounds of meat and meat products were processed at the abattoir. And Madam President, it would be surprising to note, the mover did mention it, that this represents only 10% of what is demanded locally. Let's take a quick look at the slaughter figures from the abattoir for 2023 compared to 2022. I don't like to bring bad news, but I have to bring the mix. I have to bring the good and the bad. We had a decrease in beef in terms of slaughtering by 11%. And you know why there's a reduction there? Because animals are not available. Because animals are not available. So it went down, it went from 25,887 in 2022 to 22,799. There was a 0.1% decrease in pork. In terms of chicken, local chicken, that increased by 12.2% from 12,460 pounds, 0.6 pounds, to 13,981.46 pounds. There was a slight decrease in mutton again, and here again, we are not getting the mutton or the sheep and goats that we demand. And so there was a 1.2% decrease. Madam President, in terms of farmers' payout, that increased by 1%. So, in 2022, the farmers' payout from the abattoir was $479,066, as opposed to 2023, $483,453. And, Madam President, I like to bring the figures, I like to bring the facts, because nobody can say that once I would have made this presentation, I made up anything. I bring facts, and that is what everybody on this side brings. We bring the facts, and we bring the figures to back up the facts. Madam President, I was just talking about the processed products, the value-added products from the abattoir. And Madam President, for this year, or for last year, we had an increase of smoked ham by 30%. 30%, from 1,941.7 pounds to 2,593 pounds. And of course, we know that this is the season for ham. And so those of you, I believe that the time is up now to order. But if you're lucky, you might still be able to get a local ham, because the orders keep going up and up and up every year. Madam President, hear this. Hear this. For smoked chicken at the abattoir, it increased by 568%, from 243.8 pounds to 1,631 pounds. Madam President, people love this stuff at the abattoir. Oh yes, it increased by 568%, right? When on people say nothing happened, Nevis, from 243.8 to 1,631. Madam President, things are happening, and good things are happening. And I would say as well that many of our products from the abattoir, Madam President, are now on the supermarket shelves. They are now being served by our hotels, including the Four Seasons Resort. And of course, they are being served at our restaurants as well. And here again, we ought to be proud, because it's local we're talking about. Locally produced, locally processed, better than anything you can get from overseas, Madam President. Madam President, let me shift to poultry production. And here again, we need to blow our trumpet and blow our horn, because Nevis is now self-sufficient in egg production, in eggs, for 11 months of the year. 11 out of 12 months. The only month that we import eggs is in December. And of course, we all know why. Because December is when everybody is baking and so on. Everybody is home for Christmas, so you need more eggs. So apart from December, we are self-sufficient. And not only that, Madam President, I must say here as well that this friendly government, this caring administration, this caring Department of and Ministry of Agriculture, we have made it easier for our poultry farmers. Because what we have done, in December, when eggs have to be imported, we don't even allow the supermarkets to import. Only the poultry farmers can get a license to import eggs. Only the poultry farmers, and so we are facilitating our farmers as well. And that is why we as an administration and we as a department, we are working so efficiently and diligently with all of our farmers. Madam President, I know we have heard a lot about our thrust, what we are trying to do in terms of broiler production. And this will be a watershed moment when it comes to fruition, Madam President, because many other islands in the sub-region are trying to get involved in poultry production, broiler. But I believe we have a jump start, and I want the day to come when Nevis goes ahead of all the others. There's broiler production being done in places like Barbados and Trinidad and Guyana and Jamaica, but not much is being done in the sub-region. In the Leewards, I don't think anything is being done in the Leewards, and not much in the Windward Islands either. And so here again, Madam President, this is foresight here, and I have to give commendation to the former Minister, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. And so because we are serious about this thing, Madam President, we have gone ahead, and yes, we have gotten some leaks and saying that we should have ordered the equipment before we have everything in place, but it shows that we are serious. And because we are serious about this thing, that is why we went ahead and ordered equipment at a cost of US $286,000, Madam President. 773,000 EC dollars. We're serious about agriculture in this place, and we're serious about broiler production. We are trying our utmost. We are still having discussions in terms of getting the land where we can lease to farmers. I am very happy that IECA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture, is on board with us. And because IECA saw this as such an excellent opportunity, they decided, well, listen, we are coming on board with you. They have been a good partner. And so they, at short notice, they were able to get a consultant from Trinidad and Tobago who was here earlier this year and did some training, not only in Nevis, but in St. Kitts as well, for some of our prospective broiler farmers. IECA also sponsored one of our technicians from the department, Mr. Floyd Leiber, to go to Trinidad for a week to look at what is happening down there. It shows, Madam President, that we are serious about broiler production. Because you know why we have to be so serious, Madam President? Because Nevis imports an average of $3 million worth of chicken annually. $3 million worth of chicken annually. And so we can see the opportunity that is there for the production of local chicken. And that is why we have decided we are going to invest in this thing. And I want to commend the many, many persons who have shown interest. The last training we had a meeting at the Red Cross some time back. Over 50 people attended. We had a training over disaster management recently. Over 50 people attended as well. People are interested in agriculture. They see what we are doing. Madam President, let's go to agro-processing. And this here again, Madam President, this is an area where we have made tremendous strides. And when I say tremendous, I mean tremendous strides in agro-processing. Madam President, for this year, the pulp sales, and when I say pulp, we normally pulp a lot of our fruits so that at least we can have it when the season, when the fruits are out of season. For example, things like mango and soursop and so on, we do the pulping when they are in, so at least we can have them to sell to supermarkets and hotels when the fruits are out of season. And so our pulp sales would have increased by 135% in 2023 as compared to 2022. So it moved from 2,144.37 pounds to 5,054.36 pounds. And that's because we have gotten some new markets as well. And I have to say here, Madam President, that the pulp thing has really taken off. And a lot of our supermarkets and so on are now actually purchasing the pulp. I have to say here that the department normally supplies the pulp for the Mango Festival, hosted by the Nevis Tourism Authority. And unfortunately, we almost ran out of pulp this year because of the fact that so many persons are now gravitating to the agro-processing center and purchasing the good quality pulp that we have there. Guava cheese decreased by 0.1% from 2176 to 2172 units. I have to say as well that we are doing well with regards to our concentrates. And so the concentrates increased by 38.1%, 1,442 in 2022 to 1,991 bottles in 2023. Madam President, our payout to farmers and other persons, because normally when we purchase things at the agro-processing center, it's not only farmers alone, because like when you have the mango season, you have people from all over bringing mangoes, people from all over bringing soursop, you know, and we purchase from a lot of persons, not specifically farmers alone. And so the payout for raw products would have increased by 8.5% from 48,043 to 52,148, Madam President. So here again, Madam President, we just heard about the poultry production, what we're trying to do. Now we're hearing about agro-processing. Madam President, we are moving in the right direction. And of course, we are moving towards sustainability of our economy. Madam President, I cannot bring this report this afternoon to the public unless I talk about what is happening in our schools where agriculture is concerned. Madam President, practically all of our primary schools on the island now have active school gardens. And when I say active, I mean active. They're doing a lot of work. Madam President, it's good to note that a lot of our school children and teachers at these institutions, these learning institutions, are now consuming what they produce themselves. Yes, the school feeding program. And so here again, the opportunity was there to save some money in the Ministry of Education. So, Senator, you have to applaud the Department of Agriculture for working with you. And we saw the opportunity to save some money. And so the Department of Agriculture has been working closely with our schools. Because, Madam President, this thing called food security is serious, you know. And we can't just wait for the adults to do it. We have to inculcate that into our school children as well. That is what we have been doing, and they are on board. I remember the days when I was in extension, when we used to go around to the schools. We had to do all the work. We had to do all the work. We had to go. We had to prepare the land. We had to plant. The only thing the teachers and students wanted to do was to harvest. Nothing else. But that has changed, and it has changed dramatically for the better. And so we now have students and teachers who are actually excited about farming. You know, Madam President? They are excited. And the good thing about it is that they are not only producing food for use in the kitchen, but some of them are now selling. So they're making some money as well that they can use to programs in the school. You know? And Madam President, I have to say, and I have to say it on the record here, that I was totally impressed and blown away earlier this year. I think it was in September or October, when I made a visit to the schools to see what they are doing, Madam President, and I couldn't believe that so much is happening in our schools where agriculture is concerned. And it's because we have gotten that interest. We have that enthusiasm from our students and our teachers, why the Department of Agriculture was able to organize the second annual competition called the School Agro Competition. And Madam President, you don't want to see how excited those students were. I mean, when we visited the schools, gardens were clean, crops were looking good. They have taken pictures of everything. They have what is called a scrapbook. They document everything. And I have to hand it to you. Principals, teachers, students, you all did a marvelous, marvelous job. And Madam President, during that competition, we had 9 primary schools that took part. And I have to congratulate here the winner of the outdoor category, the Maud Cross Preparatory, and for the Shade House category, the Cicely Brown Integrated School, who did it 2 years in a row. And you know, Madam President, another proud moment took place. Was it last week, Minister Leiber, Senator, at the EPPS? Very, very proud moment, Madam President, where, because there's such a surge in interest in agriculture in the schools, the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School was able to secure a donation of a shade house. Remember earlier I spoke about shade house and how it has taken off. And you know, I was so heartened because during the competition, the folks at the EPPS were saying, Lord, the monkey's doing us too bad. But here comes a donation of a shade house. And you know what is so significant about this, Madam President? And why we need to speak about it, Madam President, and why we need to be proud of it, Madam President? Because the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School got the donation from an organization in St. Lucia, you know. In St. Lucia, called Helen's Daughters. And that's not all. The Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School in little 36 square mile Nevis was the first school to benefit from such a donation from that organization. Yeah, they see what we're doing. And I have to give kudos to Mr. Mackie McLevin Truss. He's associated with Helen's Daughters, and he made a plea, and they came forward and decided they're going to make the donation. Because that organization is primarily concerned with women and the development of rural women. But they saw it fit to make that donation to the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School. And so, with that donation, it gave a massive boost to agriculture in the schools and Nevis. They're all very proud. We were there for the commissioning of that facility, and you don't want to see the students and the teachers were all smiles. All smiles, Madam President. And as I said, they see what we are doing here on the island of Nevis, and so they have decided to assist us. Madam President, let's move to fisheries. And this is another area, Madam President, where we're placing a lot of emphasis on, because there is so much potential in the blue economy. A lot of potential in the blue economy, Madam President. And so we at the department and the ministry, the Department of Marine Resources, that is called, we have been giving a lot of assistance to our officials. And I am proud to say, from the onset here, as I start this little section on fisheries, because a lot of the times, people like to bring bad information and wrong information to the public and suggest that we are not supporting persons who are involved in certain businesses here on the island. And let me say that during 2023, we had 59 applications to the tune of $457,616.23 that were processed for duty-free concession. You hear that? 457,000, Madam President, for duty-free concession. Madam President, such concessions included vehicles, boats, engine parts, boat supplies, fishing gear, and equipment. That's what? No discrimination, Madam President. We are helping our farmers, and we must help our fishers as well, because they are hard-working people. And so this caring administration, we are here to say that we are with our fisher folk as well. And we are with you all the way. All the way. Madam President, I don't think there's any island in the region where our farmers and our fishers got the support that we provided, this CCM-led Nevis Island administration supported during the COVID-19 pandemic. If anybody can bring evidence and tell me which island in the region gave the support to our farmers and fishermen, bring it. Bring it, and let's compare notes. This is an administration that is working for the people. That's what we are here for. People matter most. Yes. And everything we do, that is embodied there. People matter most. And that includes our farmers and our fishermen. Madam President, during the past year, our Department of Marine Resources, we have worked very closely with the department in St. Kitts. Of course, we know that the structure is different now, where we have a director in St. Kitts and a deputy director on the island of Nevis. And so things are different. Previously, we used to have a director for Nevis and a director for St. Kitts. That has changed. And so we've been working very, very closely with our counterparts in St. Kitts. The Department of Marine Resources would have done quite a lot of work. They would have assisted in the staging of the 3rd annual Fish Festival, Madam President, held right here in Charlestown. And I have to say that the department, as well as the folks at the Nevis Fishermen and Supply Cooperative there in Charlestown, did an outstanding job in bringing the fish and the fish products to the people, making people more aware of what is available and what we can make from our fish and marine products. And they did an outstanding job. Madam President, here in Charlestown, where we have the Nevis Fishermen and Supply Cooperatives as well, we have been doing a lot of work in terms of getting more byproducts, and thankfully we are getting more persons and more customers to come to the fisheries complex now as well. Madam President, we know that fishing is a very risky business. Very, very risky. And when our fishermen ply their trade, when they go out to sea, sometimes we don't know whether or not they're going to come back, especially when the weather is bad. And that is why we have to continue to pray for our fisher folk. And it's because they're in such a risky business, the Department of Marine Resources decide, well, listen, we need to continue to train our fishermen. They need to be kept abreast of especially the safety measures and so on, and what they need to do if they are on sea and something happens. And so we would have had over 80 fishers who attended a safety at sea training. And of course, that is allowing them to be more equipped when they go to sea. Madam President, we know that we live in a very small island. And over the years, we have seen a lot of coastal erosion. A lot of coastal erosion, Madam President. And to combat that, the department was also involved in the planting of mangrove seedlings and in an attempt for us to continue to protect our coastline. I know the member opposite will be very happy when she hears this. I know she's an environmentalist. And so we were involved in planting mangrove seedlings. Madam President, earlier this year as well, we would have collaborated with the Department of Gender Affairs. And we hosted a fish pot making workshop. And I was pleasantly surprised, Madam President, as to so many persons and young persons and women as well who were involved in that training exercise. Because, Madam President, we realize that people are becoming more health conscious, and people want to eat more fish. People want to eat more stuff from the sea, from the ocean. And fish pot making is a big business, you know. And unfortunately, a lot of our fishermen, they don't make their own pots. And so they have to depend on people to make the fish pots for them. And so, Madam President, we had this fish pot making workshop. And as I said, women were there, and we had over 20 fishers who are now trained, who, with a little more training probably and a little bit more experience, can start now having that as a business. A business that's a business venture for some persons who went to the training who can actually go into and make serious money. Madam President, only this morning before I came to the House, I attended a workshop at Disaster Management Conference Room. And here again, I have to give kudos to the Department of Marine Resources, as well as JICA, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, because they collaborated, Madam President, and they hosted a workshop for women in fisheries. We know that women on Nevis have broken a lot of barriers. Women are now in construction. They are operating heavy equipment, and I know the lady minister would love what I'm saying here. And they have broken so many barriers. And we, on this side, this administration, we are all about empowering people, empowering women, empowering men, empowering youth, empowering our seniors, empowering everyone, Madam President. We are better together, of course. And so we want to leave no one behind. And because there are so many opportunities there in the blue economy, the Department of Marine Resources thought it fit for them to bring some women together who just might be interested in fishing. When I travel on the boats, whether it's from Charlestown or from Orly, I see ladies working on the boats. You have females working in the department in Nevis and in St. Kitts. And so there is no reason why females can't go out on the sea either. I know in many Caribbean islands, the women are involved because they are the ones who normally sell the fish once their spouses go out and catch the fish. I don't see that happening much here. But the opportunity is there with the increased demand for fish for our females to get involved in fishing. And we are telling our females, if you are interested, this Department of Marine Resources will hold your hand. We will give you the necessary expertise. We will give you the necessary training. Whatever support you need, we are willing to provide that support, that expertise to you, so you can become just as proficient as the men. And so JICA saw it fit as a part of a project to come and do some training. And I want to commend JICA and commend the Department of Marine Resources as well. Madam President, during the year as well, we would have had staff who would have acquired their reef check certifications. I know the member opposite spoke yesterday about the reefs and so on. We are very concerned about the reefs. So I want to let you know, Madam member opposite, that, yes, Madam President, I want to let the member opposite know that we are working hard to ensure that our coral reefs are healthy. Because if they are not healthy, we cannot have fish. And I am proud to say as well that because, Madam President, because we value our fishermen. 2 weeks ago was International Fisheries Day, and we had a number of activities to commemorate the occasion. And 2 weeks ago, we would have honored 6 of our retired fishermen. And I have to say, Madam President, those retired fishermen, they welcomed us. We were very well received. They were happy with the honor. And we just want to continue to tell our fishermen that we value what you did. We value your contribution, and you will not be forgotten. We normally do it for agriculture as well, for our farmers. We normally do it for some of our retired workers. And we have to continue to value the work that persons who have gone off the scene would have done. Madam President, we are moving in the right direction. Madam President, let me shift gears now and talk about the Agri-Expo because this is something that is dear to my heart. The open day started when I was at the Department of Agriculture, some 27 years ago. And it started off very small. Started off right up there at Prospect, where the Department of Agriculture is situated. Very, very small. And this is something, this is our signature event. Something that all the staff, all of them are proud of. And I have to say, I have to pause here and say, I'm so happy to see so many members of my staff here this afternoon. I am happy because the open day started up there very small. Then we grew. Then we came to the villa for the 10th anniversary. And then we outgrew Prospect. Then we outgrew the villa. And now we are at the ETW Park. And Madam President, it is all because of the hard work of the staff, the hard work of the farmers, the hard work of all the stakeholders, the agro-processors, all the stakeholders in agriculture. And so for this year, we changed the name from Open Day to AgriFest. And I'm proud to say that it was the biggest event ever in the 27-year history of the event. Biggest ever. It was held on March the 30th and the 31st. And it was held under the theme Together for Food Sovereignty, Agri Expo 2023. And our patron was a fisher, Mr. Colin Huggins from right there in Bath Village. Madam President, for this year we had record number of booths and participants. Record number. By far, it is the largest we've had. And Madam President, because this thing is so good, and it has developed such a reputation, we are now attracting people from overseas as well, you know, Madam President. Are we aware that for this year, that over 150 persons came from Statia? Over 150 persons came from Statia to witness something that is being held on Nevis. We had persons from other neighboring islands. I understand we had people from Antigua as well, and from Saba. But every year for the past couple of years, we've had contingents from Statia, but never have we had such a large contingent. And you know what was even more pleasing to me, Madam President? Because on the afternoon when they were leaving, because we had some officials here as well who came in the part of the delegation, I traveled down to the pier, and little did I know that the transportation for those persons who came from Statia was being provided from right here in the Federation, you know. Right here in the Federation, you know. They chartered boats from St. Kitts and Nevis to go down to Statia to pick them up, bring them to the open day, and to take them back. And so we realize that our Agri Expo, spearheaded by the Department and the Ministry of Agriculture, also injected more money into the economy. The boat owners were able to make some money. And Madam President, I don't think we realize how much money turns around in Nevis when we have this function, you know. I don't think we realize. The farmers go home smiling. The vendors go home smiling. The persons who are selling agro-processed items go home smiling. Persons who are selling plants go home smiling, Madam President. They smile all the way to the bank. And it's because we have developed this Agri-Fest to the point where people come, people look forward to it, people make money, and serious dollars too. That is something that we ought to be proud of, Madam President. And then we hear, not Nakipa Nevis. Where why this be? Oh Lord. Madam President, I'm also proud to report that we continue to host our Agriculture Awareness Month. Because, you know, the department is always very busy, right? Very busy. So we come out of AgriFest in March, the ending of March. And, you know, we have to start preparation since the year before, you know. And so we come out of AgriFest the ending of March, the last Thursday and Friday of March. And then by May, we are hosting Agriculture Awareness Month. And that is why, Madam President, that is why agriculture has taken off like that in Nevis. Because we are leading from the front. And so, this year we hosted our 10th anniversary. And you know why I'm so extra proud of this? This started under me and the former Minister Jeffers. When I was the PS, we started this hosting of the Agriculture Awareness Month. And so we had a number of activities again here. And the highlight, of course, was we were able to award many of our farmers, many of our officials, and many of our agricultural workers, Madam President. Very, 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 very proud of that. Madam President, there's something called the 25 by 25. And I know some persons would have heard about that as well. It's an initiative by the CARICOM, and so Nevis and Synkits and Nevis very much on board, and so we are doing it as a partner, both Synkits and Nevis. Nevis is on board, and this is all about cutting imports by 25% by the year 2025. Based on what I would have presented, Madam President, we are well on our way. We are doing well with egg production. We are doing well with lettuce production. We are doing well with many other crops. And once our broiler production comes on board, we are confident that the Nevis end, we will be able to cut our imports by 25% by the year 2025. Madam President, let me shift and go a little bit to training, because whatever we do, we try as much as possible to ensure that our farmers, our officials, our stakeholders are well trained, because we want them to be as proficient as possible. We want them, when they're doing anything, they do things the right way. When they're bringing products to the market, they bring wholesome products to the market. And so we would have done quite a bit in terms of training, Madam President. And so we would have done training in pesticide use and safety, border protection, greenhouse technology, building climate resilience, poultry production, aquaculture, fish recognition, identifying corals, coral restoration and coral nurseries, squid and fad fishing. Madam President, training is an important component of any business. And we are trying our utmost to have our farmers and our officials and all stakeholders treat this as a business. And so we have to ensure that they are very well trained. Madam President, I also have to say that in the department and the Ministry of Agriculture, we are always forward-looking. We are always forward-looking, Madam President. And even in our revenue collection, we are forward-looking. Because of the fact that so many persons want local products. And because of the fact that we are normally inundated with requests. And we are inundated with persons coming to buy stuff. And some of our local people, some of them decided, well, listen, I want to use cards now. I don't want to use cash. Some people are becoming cashless. And so we took the bold initiative to start having card machines at 3 of our outlets. So if you come to the abattoir or the Lawrence and Parry Depot or the agro-processing center and you don't have any cash, pull out the card and we will facilitate you. Madam President, we are moving in the right direction. Yes. We have to move with the tide. We are modernizing, Madam President. That is what this administration is all about. Yeah? I love how nothing looks. I love it, Madam President. And so you don't have any fear, because sometimes you go to the ATM and you're trying to get some money and you can't get any money. And the bank line is full, so you can't get any money from the bank as well. But have no fear. Once you come to the Department of Agriculture, we will facilitate you. Just make sure your card have on money. Just make sure the card have on some cash, Madam President, and we will facilitate you. Madam President, for the past year, we have partnered with many departments, many organizations. And Madam President, I am proud to say that this is a department that fosters partnerships, we foster collaboration, and I don't know if there's any other department in government that partners do so many partnerships. Hmm? Well, all right. We ain't gonna fight on that. So I just wanted to highlight some of the partnerships that we would have done over the past year. One of the important partnerships we forged, and the lady senator spoke about it this morning. Department of Social Services, they normally do food vouchers. And they decided, well, listen, we want to spend some of the money with the government as well. Rather than sending all the vouchers to the supermarkets, let us do things a little different. So let us spend some of the money within the government service. So they would have made the approach to the department, and the department obliged, of course. And so we now are able to fill voucher orders from government departments. And so persons who are vulnerable can now get some of their vouchers filled at the Department of Agriculture with local products, Madam President. Local products. We, of course, I would have mentioned earlier, we would have partnered with the Nevis Tourism Authority for the hosting of the Mango Festival. We know that is a big deal now. Remember, for Nevis too, that's a big deal now. The Mango Festival. Big deal now. And I was so proud when they decided, well, listen, we want to have one of the activities down at the fruit orchard at Indian Castle. Yes. One of the huge activities was hosted right down there at Indian Castle. I'm proud in my constituency. I feel good. I feel good, Madam President, that one of the activities for the Mango Festival was hosted in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture at the Indian Castle Fruit Orchard. Nothing looks very good, Madam President. Madam President, we would have also partnered with the Culturama Committee every year. For how many years now, I don't even know. Many years, we highlight our fruits. Because we know we have a lot of fruits on the island. Our fruits are very versatile, can be used for so many different things. And so we have partnered with the Culturama Committee every year. And we host, it is actually now a part of the calendar of activities for Culturama, the Fruit Festival. And so we are happy to continue to collaborate. We collaborate with the Ministry of Tourism for tree planting for Independence 40. We spoke about the Ministry of Education, the School Agro Competition. We would have partnered with FAO, and we are happy that FAO is now practically, well, they never left us, but they were very dormant. But we are now seeing some activity from FAO as well. And this year we were able to get 10 farmers were able to benefit, I think it was 10, from some storage tanks donated by FAO and the government of Mexico. Madam President, we are moving in the right direction. And all of what we are doing, we are investing for growth, building the framework to support a resilient and a sustainable economy. We are moving in the right direction, Madam President. Madam President, I am going to go to a part here that I am extra proud of. And this little section here, you know what I dubbed it? Nevis, a beacon in the sub-region. Nevis, a beacon in the sub-region. And you know why we are a beacon, Madam President? Never mind, people say that we now do not know Nevis. You know why we are a beacon? Because people in the different islands in the region are looking at Nevis. They are looking what we are doing, Madam President. Best practices. Madam President, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Nevis was bombarded. I have to say bombarded. One day we had a group of farmers from St. Kitts Farmers Consortium. And oh my gosh, Madam President, they were like, when they came to Nevis and saw what was going on, it like they saw heaven. Yes, it's like they saw heaven. And you know, I am not the one who have to say so, you know, Madam President, because there was a video that was going around. It made the rounds. It made the rounds. And the persons who came to Nevis from St. Kitts, they told the story. I don't have to tell the story. They told the story. After they came and saw what we are doing, Madam President, out of St. Kitts as well, we had a 2-member delegation from Park Hyatt. We had the purchasing manager and the executive chef. They came to visit in October. And Madam President, they visited farmers, they visited the Department of Agriculture, and Madam President, they were impressed, just like the farmers were. And Madam President, they were not just impressed, you know, because within weeks, we started to get orders. Park Hyatt, yeah, within weeks, Park Hyatt, they were ordering burger patties, chicken, bacon, sausages, and they started to order stuff from the agro-processing center as well. Madam President, I have to say, and it's a little embarrassing because sometimes we can't even fill the orders. We couldn't even fill the orders. It's a good thing. We couldn't even fill the orders, Madam President. And, you know, after they came to Nevis and they started to order stuff, right? The stuff from the abattoir were averaging $4,400 of stuff weekly. From the agro-processing center, it was averaging $2,500 of stuff weekly, Madam President. Is weekly, I say no? Weekly. Madam President, during the same week that the consortium from St. Kitts came, the Farmers Consortium, we had a delegation of 5 or 6 persons from Anguilla. And Madam President, I have to state here, you know, we didn't invite them, you know. They came on their own. They came on their own. They came to Nevis. Here again, Madam President. The evidence is there again. The video is there again to show what these people thought of Nevis and what they thought of what we are doing. And it made me feel good when I hear the lady, the head of the delegation, say, when we go back to Anguilla, we're going to see how we can adopt some of those practices that are being done here in Nevis. Leadership. And then people have the audacity to tell Nevis people that nothing happened. The gall? Come on. Madam President, I think it's the same week or the following week, we had 3 persons here from Antigua. 3 persons from Antigua, from the Department of Agriculture in Antigua as well. And as I said, we didn't call them, they came. And they came because they're beginning to see a problem with the green vervet monkey in Antigua. And they know that we have the problem here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So they wanted to come to see what we are doing, to see, here again, best practices. So they came to see what we are doing and to see how they can adopt, Madam President. And of course, the reviews from the delegation from Anguilla and the delegation from Antigua, outstanding, Madam President. We also had a delegation from Japan. We had several delegations from Japan, meeting with the member for Nevis 1, member for Nevis 2. I had another delegation that came and met with me as well. And they are interested in giving us some assistance for fisheries in particular. Madam President, we also had a delegation from Trinidad. 2 delegations, separate delegations from Trinidad. One from a company called Marketing Arm International Caribbean, who sells environmentally friendly chemicals. They came to Nevis. They know that we've been using the chemicals. They came to do some training. And then we also had a delegation from an institution called Kariri in Trinidad in terms of standards and what we are doing. And Madam President, I also have to say, because we are such a beacon in the sub-region, when the delegation came from Statia to our AgriFest, I was able to meet with the top officials from that delegation, and they are now not just only interested in coming for the open day and for the AgriFest, you know, apart from the fact that they say next year they want to come for the 2 days. They want to overnight next year. So you see more and more money going to be injected in the economy because they just don't want to just come and set it for 1 day. They have said next year we want to come for the 2 days. Tourism now. They have also said in the meeting they had with me that they want to sign a memorandum of understanding, an MAOU, with the Department and the Ministry of Agriculture, because they want to see how we can do some training for them. They can come here, do some internships here, because they see what we're doing is good, Madam President. And if it wasn't good, they wouldn't want to sign an MOU. And so we are open, and so we are willing, and so we are happy that this little island of Nevis and what we are doing in the Ministry and Department of Agriculture is on the radar. It's on the radar in the sub-region. And, you know, this is not the first time agriculture is on the radar, you know, Madam President. Long time. Because I remember when I was in Extension, many years ago, we had something called the Nevis model, where, of course, when Four Seasons came to Nevis, we developed this arrangement where we went. We asked them what they wanted, what their demands were, and we worked with the farmers, and the farmers did succession planting, and we were able to support what the hotel wanted. And almost every regional workshop that I attended, that Nevis model came up. And so Nevis ain't just gone on the radar. We are doing things and we are moving in the right direction, Madam President. Madam President, no time is going, so let me look forward. Let's just look forward to what we're going to be doing in 2024. Briefly, in agriculture. Madam President, we can look forward to more consistent production on our government estates. We're going to step up our production. I know there are times when we have a lull in production on the government estates. We're going to try as much as possible on all the government estates. We're going to try to have more consistent production on our estates because the demand is there for the local products. And it is evident now that people in Nevis now prefer the local products, you know. Nevis people now prefer local products than the foreign products. I remember the days when people preferred because the overseas stuff look a little glossier. They gravitated. Not anymore. People want local stuff now, Madam President. We will continue, of course. We spoke about the marketing of our crops, so our farmers. We're going to continue to facilitate the marketing of the crops. Of course, we've spoken so much about the Indian Castle Fruit Orchard, and we are seeking to expand that, Madam President. And I have to say here as well, that it's becoming a site for people to visit now, Madam President. Not only an agricultural area, but it's now becoming a site for people to visit. And everybody who goes to that fruit orchard in Indian Castle love it. The reviews are always there. Madam President, of course I spoke about the 25 by 25. That is something that this is 2023 ending here. Next year we're stepping over into 2024. And we have to ensure that we keep a pace and we increase our production so we can get to that magic of cutting our imports by 25% by the year 2025. I spoke about agriculture in schools, and that is something that we absolutely must continue to promote. And Minister of Education and Senator, we need to do some work in the high schools as well. Can't just leave it to the primary schools as well. I know when I was going to high school, Gingerland, we always had a school garden, did a lot of work, they're practical, and so we need to get the high schools involved as well in the schools, in agriculture in the schools. Of course, we will continue to support and promote shade house technology. That, I believe, is the way to go. And as I said earlier on, with the scarcity of land now, that is the way to move. That is the direction in which we should move. Of course, we will continue to improve our quality and quantity of the products that we have at the abattoir and at our agro-processing center, bearing in mind that the demand has gone way above what we thought we would have, Madam President. And so we must continue to do work there in those two facilities. Madam President, we will continue to promote vigorously intensive agriculture for the livestock farmers in particular. When we have our AgriFest, when we have our open day previously, the biggest seller of meat is mutton. And we never have enough. It always runs out. And we normally have to import some of it from Statia. We want to get to the point where when we have our AgriFest, that we can say all of it is locally grown. We do have a lot of farmers who have a lot of animals. And I know when the member and the mover of the bill, the member for Nevis too spoke, he spoke about the need for our livestock farmers to develop a different approach to farming. And I want to encourage our livestock farmers as well to develop a different approach to livestock farming. There is money to be made. There is money to be made.
10 minutes, Minister.
Pardon me?
10 minutes.
Thank you. There's money to be made, Madam President, and so we want people to step up. And we're going to be promoting that intensive production. We're going to intensify our work in terms of the setting up of the broiler industry. We will continue with our capacity building and training, Madam President. And Madam President, I have to say here as well, our goal for next year and the years to come, well, for next year for now, we want to have at least 700 acres under production. No, I'm serious. However, Madam President, I have to give a word of caution to some of the persons who now rent land from the Department of Agriculture. Because ever since I was at the Department of Agriculture, we had this problem where persons rent and they're not doing anything with the land. We at the department, we now have to reassess what is happening, because practically every month people are calling and saying, I want land, I want to get involved in agriculture. And there are some persons who are holding on to the land and not utilizing it. And we want to change that. We want to change that. And so we want all of the lands that are leased or rented by the department to be under production. Madam President, something that is near and dear to me as well for 2024 and beyond, and I've already said that to the PS over and over and over again, and I'm going to stress it again here, that we in the department and the ministry, we must promote what we are doing more. You see all these things I've said here, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know. And we have the capability in the Department of Agriculture to promote what we are doing, and we need to do it. Because sometimes when people say that nothing is happening in Nevis, I mean, all of what I presented here this afternoon, Madam President, people need to be aware. And so we need to be more active, and not only in agriculture. Because, you know, sometimes when I listen to the member for Nevis too, and when he has his monthly press conference, and sometimes when I hear all the things happening, I'm a minister and sometimes I don't even know myself. Because we are very bad at promoting what we do, all of us. We are guilty. So we need to change that next year. We need to change that. Madam President, for next year for fisheries, very quickly, we want to increase our awareness of aquaculture. I know that the member opposite raised that as well yesterday. We did some training in aquaculture this year. We want to continue that because we think there's an opportunity there as well for people to do fish farming. Maybe some of the ladies who were trained, who went to the workshop this morning, to get involved in aquaculture. And that is why we need to free up more of the land that is not being utilized, because people need to use the land for things like aquaculture as well. I know at one point in time we were very advanced in terms of CMOS production and byproducts. We need to get back there as well. Madam President, we need to continue in terms of protection and preservation of our marine management areas. We need to continue to increase fisher safety among our fishers. We'll be doing more training. We will continue to increase our registration. Some first fishermen are not registered, some vessels are not registered. Fishermen, it is important for you to be registered. And in that vein, we will also be trying to issue some ID cards for our fishermen as well. So we're going to be doing some more training, and we're going to continue to partner with our public and private sectors. We're going to do staff training as well, Madam President. And we know that we have a problem with sargassum seaweed, and we want to see what we can do in terms of sustainable sargassum management as well. So these are things that we are trying to do. We're also going to be trying to introduce biodegradable twine. Remember, we are trying to be sustainable as possible, Madam President, and we're going to continue with our activities for Fisheries Month. Let's turn quickly to culture, Madam President. And in January 2023, Madam President, the Intangible Cultural Heritage, or ICH desk, was established by the NCDF's Research and Documentation Unit. Main goal is to provide permanent support to communities with its ICH safeguarding initiatives and projects. And I would have to say strides have been made, Madam President, in cultural preservation through archiving and documentation of our cultural icons, our cultural history, and our cultural heritage. All very important to us, Madam President. Madam President, the NCDF, which is the corporation that runs for culture, they normally have a Black Arts production, which continues annually, showcased in Black History Month in 2023. And the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, they would have turned 15 years on the 1st of April 2023. They normally have an Easter workshop that continued this year. And from initiatives like these, we're able to get persons to take part in the annual Culturama Festival. We normally have a Junior Street Parade that is run by the NCDF. And this year, for the first time, we had a steel pan competition. And Madam President, I have to pause here to say how proud I am of the strides we have made in steel pan here on Nevis. And we wanted to have a full-fledged competition. That didn't happen. We had what is called a Night of Steel, and we had what is called a five-a-side competition. That went very well, Madam President. And of course, as I would have mentioned earlier, the NCDF normally spearheads the Junior Street Parade. Madam President, of course, we have our NCDF also involved in our schools. We have a number of cultural art forms which have been taught to our students, both at the high school and the primary, high and primary level. And for this season in particular, the NCDF was very instrumental in assisting our primary schools in particular in putting together their Christmas programs. Madam President, of course, we know we also have a Culturama Secretariat. And we had a hugely successful Culturama 49, which was hosted from the 27th of July to the 8th of August, Madam President. And I have to give kudos to all who have been involved, kudos to all of the winners, kudos to all the participants as we prepare for next year. Madam President, as we look forward to 2024 from culture, NCDF will initiate programs to create a greater awareness of our local heritage. We'll continue with our Easter workshop. We will continue with the Black Arts production during Black History Month. And of course, as I would have mentioned, and I would have mentioned here in the House more than once, Madam President, preparation has started. We're going to be vigorously promoting Culturama 50. Next year is the 50th anniversary of Culturama. And I know a lot of persons in the diaspora normally look at these sittings. And I want to remind persons in the diaspora that you need to start booking your vacation. You need to start booking your tickets. You need to start booking your accommodation. You need to start booking your transportation if you need transportation, because listen, I believe Nevis will sink about 2 to 3 inches next year. We are expecting a flood of Nevisians who are living overseas to be on Nevis for Culturama 50. And so we continue to promote. Right now, I think registration is open for persons who want to take part in the different pageants and so on, the different competitions. And that will be a big deal. I have to say as well, it will be a homecoming. And that is why I believe Nevis will sink a couple inches, because it will be a homecoming celebration. I think we had a homecoming for Culturama 40 or 45, 40, I think. And this will be another homecoming, but it will be one of a much bigger magnitude, Madam President. And so we can look forward to 2024. Madam President, quickly to housing. No, my time is almost up.
Less than a minute. Less than a minute. So
Less
if
than
you
a
need
minute.
additional time, you can
Okay.
request
I have to wait till that is over. Housing quickly, Madam President. And of course, Madam President, I would have said earlier on that we are revolutionizing housing. From all of what have been said here this afternoon, we realized that we have revolutionized agriculture. And now we are revolutionizing housing on the island of Nevis, Madam President. Madam President, in 2023, the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation projected to construct 27 houses at a total cost of $6.6 million. Madam President, 9 have been fully completed at a cost of $2.3 million.
That's your turn.
Madam President, thank you. May I humbly ask for an additional 30 minutes? May I humbly ask for an additional 30 minutes, Madam President?
Yes, the question is that the honourable member be given an additional 30 minutes to wrap up his presentation. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Yes, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues, for being so kind. And Madam President, I was speaking about housing. And so 9 have been completed, 18 are under construction at a total cost of $4.3 million. And we have houses being built now in 6 locations. First time in the history of Nevis. We have developments in 6 locations. Madden's Estate, or we call it Cedar View Housing Development, Phase 3. Hamilton Estate, call it Sugar Mill Residences Estate, or Craddock Road. Mountain Crest Residences. Low Ground Estate, Chimney Crescent. Rice's Village, Bayview Gardens. Spring Hill Estate, University Heights. And so we are proud of the work that we are doing in housing, Madam President. We have some customers who are very pleased with the work that we have done. And in terms of the housing, I just wanted to say as well quickly, because I know the member opposite, Madam President, did raise an issue about the houses and why we projected this number and only this number has been completed. There is actually a process. When you apply for a house, Madam President, you have to go to the bank. We give you an offer letter. We give you a certain number of months with that offer letter. You have to go to the bank, Madam President, and sometimes we know the banks take some time before your loan can be approved. And so even if we project we're going to do 50 houses this year, based on the fact that people have to get the offer letters have to run out. Some may get an approval, some may not get. You have to start another set of offer letters. And so it's important that you project, you make a projection. That doesn't mean you're going to get all 50 or all 27 done in the year. And so I'm going to say here now that the projection for next year is 50. And I also have to say that between 2013 and 2023, a total of 296 homes have been built at a cost of $69.5 million. Madam President, we are projecting 50 for next year. And of course, the projection is Madden's 26, Hamilton 5, Rice's 4, Ramsbury, Craddock Road 6, Low Ground 7, Spring Hill Estate 2. And so, Madam President, we continue to work hard. The homes are affordable, Madam President, and we work well with our homeowners. And we try as much as possible to get them satisfied. And I have to say here that the homes are heavily subsidized. I know some people complain and say that the cost is high, but if you do not go through the corporation and you do not do what is being required of you through the corporation, and you have to do it on your own, it's going to cost you maybe at least another 30% more of what it cost you, Madam President. Madam President, I know I would have asked for some additional time, so I'm going to try to start going to my wrap-up mode. I just want to say here that when the member opposite the member for number 4 spoke yesterday, she would have queried a few things in terms of agriculture. And one of the things she would have queried was the 25 by 25 initiative and whether or not we here on Nevis can control the monkey situation. Madam President, I have to say, yes, the monkeys are a concern to us. But I have to say that the department, we have devised numerous initiatives to control the monkeys. And I know that there are still a lot of monkeys out there. But the facts are at the department as well, Madam President, that we have controlled a lot. A lot of monkeys have been kept under control, Madam President. And it is a huge problem. We have to admit it is a huge problem, Madam President. It's no easy problem to get over. But I don't think it's accurate to say that many persons can't farm because monkeys are there. People are using the electric fence. We are doing our things to make sure that the population is kept under control. Some of the things we have to, of course, keep a little quiet. But we have done a lot, Madam President. Ever since I was there in the Department of Agriculture, we have done a lot in terms of the monkey control, and we are continuing to work assiduously to ensure that our farmers, our backyard gardeners, our homeowners can farm comfortably and coexist with the monkey problem. Madam President, yesterday the member for Nevis 4 also spoke about the mango processing, which I think was a good idea in terms of a facility specifically for mangoes. But I have to say that in the meantime, we have come a long way in terms of processing of our mangoes. I know, yes, there's a lot of mangoes that goes to waste, yes, and we need to try to do more. But in the meantime, we have done a lot. And the good thing is that our pulp production, the figures that were presented here, shows that we have been doing a lot where that is concerned. There was also a point raised about our farmers and getting enough water. Well, I can tell you, Madam President, and I can tell all who are here, that I've never heard any of our farmers complaining for water. The only thing they can complain about is that they got free water for 3 years. And I don't think they're going to complain about that. I don't think they're going to complain about that. But I have to commend the member for Nevis 1 because of the hard work of his department, the farmers get adequate water and people get water. And so I don't think water has ever been an issue for our farmers, Madam President. Madam President, you know, I have outlined quite a lot here this afternoon, Madam President, quite a lot. And Madam President, I am normally disheartened, very disheartened, Madam President, when people who are born in Nevis and raised in Nevis and live in Nevis continue to say and continue to try to fool the people of Nevis and the people who are living in the diaspora that nothing is happening on the island of Nevis. If all of what I have outlined here this afternoon, if all of what the member for Nevis 1 have outlined in his presentation, if all of what the lady senator has outlined in her presentation, if all of what the gentleman senator has outlined in his presentation amounts to nothing, Madam President, something is wrong with some of us on the island of Nevis. And Madam President, if people, after hearing these presentations, and the move of the bill, he has to come back, you know, he still have things to say. But Madam President, if all of what we have been hearing in this honorable house for the past 2 days, and people can conclude that nothing is happening in Nevis, something is wrong with their mental faculty. It has to be. Because, Madam President, and as I said, what I normally do, I normally bring the facts to back up what I'm saying, you know. I just don't talk off of the top of my head. I have the figures and the facts to back up. And Madam President, when we as Nevisians, when we try to say that nothing is happening and Nevis dead, you know, it is not an indictment against the government ministers alone, you know, Madam President. It's an indictment against everybody on the island of Nevis, including persons who are saying it. When you say that nothing happened at Nevis and Nevis dead, you're attacking my staff at the Department of Agriculture, you know. You're attacking my staff at the Department of Marine Resources, you know. You're attacking my staff at Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. You're attacking my staff at culture because you're telling them that they're not doing nothing. You're telling them that they're not doing anything. And their work amounts to nothing. That is exactly what you are saying, Madam President. And we have some people who live on this island who are haters of Nevis. They are haters. Because if you can see things happening in your face and say nothing happen, you don't love your country, your island, man. Come on. Nobody who loves this island should be peddling this nonsense, this garbage. That, oh, Nevis dead. Nothing happened. So what is all of this? I all this outline, Madam President. Madam President, there should always be an opposition. But an opposition like the government should be responsible. But Madam President, we are witnessing an opposition in Nevis that is reckless. Utterly reckless. Very reckless, Madam President. Because this is an opposition that can't say nothing good is happening in Nevis. Nothing at all. Come on. Madam President, all these people who are coming from all the other islands to come to Nevis to work and live, why do you think they're coming to Nevis? Why are they coming to Nevis, Madam President? Is it because things bad? This opposition paints a gloomy picture of this beautiful island, you know? Gloomy, gloomy picture, like we're in a ghetto, like we're behind God's back, and nothing happen. Everything they say is bad about Nevis, and you can't love Nevis, and you're doing that, Madam President. And you're right, and it costs anybody who says something good about the island. Madam President, I have been called many times by persons who are living here, who are not from here, but they have been residing here long enough to get a citizenship. And many requests to do letter of recommendation. They have been here for 14 years, Madam President. If things been so bad, they would have gone back home. They would have gone back home. I have one pending to do. Because, and when these people call, they're so excited. Why you think they want to stay in Nevis, Madam President? Because Nevis is so bad? Come on. Come on. Madam President, these persons who have now gotten to this stage of getting a citizenship have been residing here for 14 years. And you know what, Madam President, some of them are so excited that they asked for the recommendation letter before the 14 years, you know? Yes. I remember one young lady came and she said, I want a recommendation letter. I did the recommendation letter. The next year she came back and said, sorry, the 14 years hadn't gone yet, so you have to do a new one. Just do over the date. And so people are coming here and falling in love with this little island. When people who born here, now have nothing good to say about Nevis. I mean, Madam President, people from overseas who come here love off Nevis. Big time. Love off this little island. There's a couple from Austin, Texas, who has a condo in St. Kitts. And Madam President, every time they come to St. Kitts, they call me, Eric, we come into Nevis. We love Nevis too bad. About a month ago, she called me. She said, oh, we are coming. Please make some time for us. I have my daughter and I have my grandson. Come to Nevis. And whenever they come, they have their spots they want to go to. Dewdrops is their favorite restaurant. Sunshine is their favorite place to go and get a killer bee. And strange enough, when they came, Madam President, the grandson is only 13 years. And when they went down, when I took them down to Sunshine's, Madam President, the mother of the young son, the young boy, 13 years, she said, my son has fallen in love with Nevis. The young lady said she has fallen in love with Nevis. The couple came back to Nevis earlier this week. And you know what the mother told me? She said, my daughter and my grandson, next year, they have a choice of going to either Paris or St. Kitts Nevis, and they have chosen St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts Nevis over Paris. A 13-year-old. Could you imagine that? When the young lady went down to on Penny's Beach and she walked on the beach, she said, "This looks like something I see in a brochure. This doesn't look real." And people here calling down Evelyn Nevis. Only this morning when I stepped out there to speak to somebody from social services, several tourists were on the grounds there. One of the taxi drivers called me, introduced me to a lady from Scotland. She said, "I was here 30 years ago and I've seen so much improvement." But nothing happened. Nothing happened, Madam President. I mean, come on. When the consultant was here for the poultry, say, "Want to retire in Nevis?" First time come to Nevis. I met a doctor from Antigua in St. Kitts some time back. Say he and his wife were in St. Kitts on business. He told me, "We can come in, is our anniversary, and we are coming to Nevis for our anniversary. I want to retire in Nevis. I'm going to say goodbye to Antigua when I retire." Everybody falling in love with Nevis. But people who live here have nothing good to say. Madam President, we need to stop that nonsense. We need to stop this dishonesty, Madam President. We need to stop being dishonest with ourselves, and we need to stop being dishonest with the people around us. And so I am calling on the opposition and all your supporters to stop this bashing of our Nevis. If you love your island, and Madam President, I also have to say that the member for Nevis 4 was living overseas and she came back home. So if Nevis was so bad, why would you come back home? Why would you come back home to reside in Nevis if things so bad? Come on. So I mean, Madam President, we got to get beyond the petty politics. We need to get beyond that as Nevisians and residents. And when something looks good, we must say it looks good, Madam President. Madam President, we are all Nevisians. It's a small island. And this divisiveness is not good. It's not good. But it's because of the dishonesty. And Madam President, today, on this is the 7th day of December 2023, I am here in these hallowed walls of this house, and I'm going to call for a national day of prayer for the opposition. Yes, they need prayer. A lot of prayer too.
Tone it down, member. Please, tone it down.
We need prayer, Madam President.
We all need prayer. We all need prayer.
We all need prayer. But I want special prayer for the removal of the dishonesty and for the lack and for love for Nevis. That is what I want to pray most for. We want people to love the island. Love Nevis, because Nevis loves all of us. Nevis loves all of us, and we need to love our island. And don't bash it because of politics. No, it's not good, Madam President. It's not good at all. And Madam President, I'm going to wrap up in a bit, but I just want at this point to thank our allied agencies and our partners. I want to thank the Embassy of the Republic of China on Taiwan, the ICDF and the Taiwanese Technical Mission. I want to thank AICA. I want to thank CADI, FAO, the Department of Agriculture in St. Kitts, the Department of Agriculture in Statia. They are really our partner now. And of course, all government ministries and departments, Madam President. I really want to say a big thank you to the staff at the Department of Agriculture. And I want to say a big thank you as well to the former minister who is in the gallery, because he would have done a lot of good work in agriculture, and we are now benefiting from some of the groundwork he would have laid. And so, Madam President, I want to say a hearty thank you to the entire team at the Ministry and the Department of Agriculture for making us all look good, for making me proud, for making yourselves proud. Because when I worked at agriculture, I always used to tell the staff, whatever you do, whatever good you do, it reflects back on you. And you are the beneficiaries as well, beneficiaries as well of the good you do. And so I really want to thank them for the hard work that they've been putting in over the years. And let us continue, because we are moving in the right direction. And we have to continue to move in that way. Let us continue to do what we're doing and do it even better. And we will get even more recognition from our neighbors. Madam President, I want to say, in conclusion, that in 2024 and beyond, this ministry that I am fortunate to lead, we will continue. We will continue to revolutionize agriculture. We will continue to revolutionize housing. We will, in the next couple of months, be vigorously promoting Culturama 50, because we are promising persons, not only in Nevis, but in the diaspora who come home, that they will be exposed to an experience like no other for the Caribbean's greatest summer line. Madam President, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me this opportunity, to thank my colleagues for bearing with me over the past year. And of course, Madam President, once again, I really want to say a big thank you to the staff at all of the departments who work so very, very well with me. I'm proud of the work that they have done, and I expect that to continue in 2024. Madam President, as I close, I want to just say that I am convinced, and I believe that I have convinced all who are here, including the member opposite, and those listening, that we in Nevis are moving in the right direction. And because we are moving in the right direction, we are investing for growth, building the framework to support a resilient and sustainable economy. I also want to say, Madam President, because we are moving in the right direction, there is absolutely no need to look back, no need to turn back. We have to continue to focus, and we have to continue to look forward. Madam President, we are moving in the direction because we have an astute leader, we have an excellent team here on this side, and we will continue to ensure that the people of Nevis are at the epicenter of everything we do, not only in my ministry, but all of the ministries, Madam President. And so, with these not so few words, I want to wish this bill safe passage through this honorable house. May it please you, Madam President.